Here we go. All right, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I am so excited to introduce our guest here today. She is one of my all-time favorite people and one of my longest running coaching clients. This is Mary Cheatham King of Mary Cheatham King Real Estate out of Morehead City, North Carolina. So thank you for joining us here today, Mary Cheatham.
Thank you. Right back at you. And I'm just so glad to be here. And I'm really excited that we're talking about one of my favorite topics. So if we could just sprinkle a little wine and food in with the travel combo, I'm going to be all set. Chef's kiss, 7:30 a.m. be damned. Let's do it.
There we go. I love that. And for those of you who don't know, I learned this very quickly in my relationship with Mary Cheatham. She has two first names. So if you reach out to her for whatever reason after this, don't reach out to her and say Mary. Her name is Mary Cheatham, or you'll hear me call her MC, which is what a lot of people who know call her. So Mary Cheatham is her first name. So let's dive in. Today, we're going to be talking about traveling easy, simple hacks to soothe anxiety and enjoy the journey. Now, the reason that we decided to put this together, Mary Cheatham, was because you were traveling and I was coaching you. And we decided that there was a specific plan that you needed, and we called it your reentry plan.
Yeah.
Will you tell everyone here what the reentry plan is and why we created it in the first place?
Yeah. So I think we should back up and just say that I absolutely love to travel. And so I would plan these trips and be so excited about them. And then I would get back and absolutely fall to pieces. So for like the week after I would get back, everything would be awful. I was pretty sure that they were getting ready to shut the doors on our business. Like it just was the worst. And every time I would come back, Jordan would say, "You realize this is just your reentry. This is just your landing from the trip that you just took, and this is a price that you do not have to pay." Right?
That's right.
Right. And so what you helped me do was to establish a reentry plan. And so what that really looked like was making sure that when I got back from a trip, I was set up for success, right? Set up so that I could come home and kind of gracefully settle back in. We talk a lot on our team about blood and guts versus ease and elegance. And so I was coming back, like basically just like dumped in a heap off the plane and trying to pick myself up and put myself back together. And it was a disaster every time. And so we were trying to figure out how to move from blood and guts to ease and elegance. And that's where this plan came from.
Yeah, and for those of you who may not know what a reentry plan is, right? Essentially, what it is that when she comes back, and I have we co-created this. Like she has one, I have one, and we're going to share some of the details of our reentry plans today. And yet, the idea is that you don't come back into a world of guesswork as it relates to where to start and what your priorities are. Right. That what we do is when you re-enter your world after a really great trip, and this might be, maybe you're only gone for 4 or 5 days, or maybe you're gone for 2 weeks, but it's a pre-decided list that you're going to work yourself through so that you don't just like get thrown back into the world of your business and have no idea where to even start. Right.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know, you women out there are going to know what I'm talking about. You know how they say like after you have a baby that you have to, if it took you 9 months to gain the weight. And so you should give yourself 9 months, to work back into feeling like yourself again. And I think it's the same thing with the trip. Seriously. So if you're going to be gone for 2 weeks, then you really kind of need to look at the 2 weeks following when you get back and make sure that you have created a situation where you're going to thrive, right? Whereas if you're only gone for a few days, maybe you only need a few days for your reentry plan. But I think it's important to note that the length of your reentry plan and the attention that you pay to your landing relates to the length that you are gone.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And so let's kind of walk them through that a little bit, Mary Cheatham. Like when we look at your reentry plan, and maybe we're coaching the audience, right, on how they could start to just build their own. What advice might you give them, or what's an example you could give them from your reentry plan that's really helped you?
Yeah. So, I think the big thing is that I look at number one, Jordan, I have all but stopped coming home on a Sunday if I can help it at all. I come home on a Saturday, right? Or come home the day so that I have a buffer day.
Yep.
And I know that can look different, but I have a buffer day. By and large, I generally avoid having set repeated meetings on Mondays anyway.
Hmm.
Um, so, generally speaking, I'll look at my Monday and make sure that I have a food plan. What am I going to eat for those first few days when I get home? Just generally understanding. Maybe I've prepped some things and frozen them. Maybe I figured out, what I'm going to be set up to do on that Sunday so I can meal prep for those few days. I've thought about, depending on how far I've traveled, am I going to stick to my regular workout routine, or am I going to do something that's a little bit slower, a little bit later, maybe block some time in the middle of the day instead of going so early in the morning. And then it's really just looking at the commitments that I have and making sure that I have pared those down to the bare minimum. And what I'll say is, it's not just about getting things off your plate. It's also about making sure that you have a touch base or somehow access to the information that you need to be able to mentally and emotionally plug back in and not feel like you're in the dark. So
Yep.
it's not pushing everything back. It's making sure that you're prioritizing the things that are going to make you feel like you're in the driver's seat again quickly, right? And then deprioritizing everything else.
Yep, that's right. And I follow very much the same rule as far as like my wife, and she knows this about me. It's a little bit annoying to her, but sacreds or Sundays are sacred.
Yeah.
And I'll never come back on a Sunday unless I absolutely have to, or a flight has been delayed. And much like what Mary Cheatham said, the first thing that I'm going to do, and I do this at the beginning of every week, whether I've been traveling or not, the very first thing I do when I walk into my office is I always touch my 411 first. It
Mm.
is the thing that I go to first, because the thing about the 411 is that it's an accounting of all my priorities. It tells me where I am with those things. And I don't like guesswork, because guesswork is kind of like the little sister to chaos. And I don't know about you, I just can't stand chaos at this stage or season in my life. And so there's something about the predictability of being able to look at my priorities on my 411 and know where each one of them are and how far I need to move each one the week that I'm coming back, that just calms me. It puts me in a really good headspace.
I think
Um,
that that's a great point. I want to just say, just in case you're not an overachiever like Jordan and you don't have your 411 all organized on your desk and all that kind of stuff, I want you to know, I love that you're talking about avoiding chaos. One of my team members just this week described me to a prospective hire as chaos on wheels. So I am the chaos. But what I want to say is, one thing that you taught me, because I'm not great about my 411. I aspire to be. But in the
yeah.
meantime, that when I come back, what I should think about for that week is, what are my 3 top priorities? So
Mhm.
don't set yourself up for a reentry that you can't win, right?
Right.
You need to establish before you leave, before you step foot back into your reentry, how are you going to win during that
Yep.
day or during that week, depending on how long you're really looking at for your reentry plan. But I
Yep.
think that's really important if you're not quite a Jordan.
Well, I mean, I didn't wake up one day and all of a sudden what that just happened. It was a process, right? And I just have learned that I don't like the feeling of anxiety, and the way that I can get around it is through the 411.
Yeah.
So it's like an anti-anxiety pill for me. Now, with the reentry plan, Mary Cheatham, there's even some of this that we've broken down into like the pre, the during, and the after, right? And some of the things that you talked about, I think, are really key, that I want to make sure nobody lost. That she said when she's coming, before she even leaves, right? She kind of looks ahead and thinks, okay, well, what am I going to meal prep? How am I going to re-enter and have certain things ready? Or did I misunderstand that? Is that part of what
No,
you're doing?
that's exactly right. That's exactly
Okay.
right. And it makes me feel better the whole time I'm gone. So I say to my kids all the time, I have a senior and a freshman in high school. And before you ask, I'm absolutely about to lose my mind. But what I tell them all the time is to think about your future self, right? So, like,
Mm,
in the evening, I'll get my coffee cup out and I'll go ahead and sprinkle a little cinnamon in it and set it next to the coffee maker. And I'm like, you guys, I'm thinking about future me. Future me is going to be so pumped to wake up and have, that I thought about myself, right? And it's just like I lay out my gym clothes every single night the night before, and then future me is so happy that I don't have to deal with that in the morning. And so I think that's the same concept.
yep. Yep. I totally agree. I totally agree. As it relates to the business, Mary Cheatham, like when you re-enter, is there a specific thing that you do with your team? Is there anything that you've already got kind of pre-set up to re-enter the business world?
So I think the biggest thing when I come back, I think I know the key people that I need to touch base with. And so I
Mm,
might send them a text on the day I get back, or I might wait until Monday morning and reach out. But just, hey, how are you doing? How are things? And, you know, we talked about, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I know we're going to do the pre, during, and after, because sometimes in the during, there are key people that I will touch base with. It makes
yeah,
me feel better for them to know that I'm thinking about them, for them to, I'll have a predetermined time where I'll reach out to just those few folks and then I put my phone back away.
yeah, yeah. So let's jump into that: the pre, the during, and the after. So, walk us through that.
Well, to me, I think one of the most important things is, I don't know if you guys ever feel this way, but sometimes I know what I'm doing, but everybody else doesn't know what I'm doing. So it so it makes me feel really good when I make sure, like, I'll have my travel on my calendar, but I think as far in advance as you possibly can, make sure that it's on everybody else's calendar. There's nothing worse than realizing at the last minute that nobody knows that you're going to be out and they haven't shifted their expectations of what their week looks like because you haven't made sure that they know you're going to be gone. So to me, that's like way in advance. Make sure it's on every calendar so that everybody knows what to expect. So I think
Yep.
that's one thing. I think assigning big projects, is something huge, so that way people are moving things forward while you're gone. Looking at the calendar when you're going to be gone and go ahead and reschedule those appointments. Right? The very best thing you can do if it's a recurring appointment is just cancel it. Just skip that one. And then, make sure that the people that are involved know that you're going to be, extra focused the week before and the week after, right? So just, when you can erase it, erase it.
Hmm.
Um, and then I think, I don't know, Jordan, I totally have this vision of you being like the most like straightforward, simple packer. It's like my husband, like he can pack in 10 minutes. But I think the before is, if I can stop like the week before I'm going to go and at least start to think about what I need, what I'm going to take, it makes me leaving for that trip so much more joyful. If I'm not packing at 5 a.m. on the morning I'm leaving or the night before, that's not fun. That is not fun. So figuring out what I need and making sure that it's clean, and do I know where it is, and do I have the right shoes, all that kind of thing. I think planning ahead for that is such a huge key for me, to enjoy it. And then the last thing I'll say is, especially when I travel to a city, I have gotten so I've figured out about the maps on my iPhone, that
Hmm.
you find a location, you can save it to, you can create a little map. So like when we're going to different dinners or we're going to a new city or we're going to museums, I put that all on one map, and it makes it so much easier for me to understand how much time I need to allow. It gets me really excited. So creating one of those maps is just, and it's so easy to do, but that's something that I really like to do in advance too.
Yeah, that's really, really smart. Yeah, one of the rules that we follow as it relates to the pre, like leaving, and I don't know if you would call this pre or during, but we also, I do my best if we're leaving, for example, I don't want to leave the day after a hardcore work week. And so this doesn't always work out, but I remember one time it was actually, I was coming out to see you. So this would have been last summer,
Okay.
and it's like Friday, we have ran, I don't even know how many coaching calls I had done that week. My brain is fried. Our flight is at like 6 in the morning, which means that we have to leave our house at 4 a.m. And I'm just like sitting in my bedroom looking around, like trying to get things packed, and I'm just exhausted. And I'm like, this just doesn't work at
Yeah.
all. Like I would love to have either the flight could have left in the afternoon on Saturday and I would have had the morning, or just push it to Sunday. Because I don't like to be rushed, and that feeling of, having a hardcore week and then that night you're packing and then the next morning you're leaving and you're getting the kids ready and all the things. It doesn't make the experience enjoyable.
No, it doesn't. And to that end, I've just started doing this. I've started reading the room when I'm booking our family's flights. I used to book them, because we're always two flights. We just have one little airport
Yep.
that takes you to Charlotte. So
Yep.
unless your final destination is Charlotte, you have at least two flights, right? And so I've always booked like that 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., which means we have to leave our house at 3:30, 4:30, it just depends, right? And what I've learned is, because then you get there, I'm like, but then you have half a day. I'm the only one who uses the half a day. My children get directly in a bed somewhere and they
Mhm.
hate my guts and they're furious, right? And so I've learned that that's not worth it. It's so much better just to skip the half a day,
Yeah.
right? And just chalk it up to, and make it so that your travel time is a little bit more relaxing. I've also stopped doing the less than an hour layover. I
Mm.
just I just took Sally to see Taylor Swift 2 weeks ago, and less than an hour later, and we missed our second flight. Because it's efficient, and I'm efficient, and I don't like to waste time, but you
Mhm.
cannot control the airplanes. So
Yeah.
that's another thing I've learned is just relax, get a coffee, hang out, take a book that you love to read. That is such a hack too. On the before is download whatever you want to watch on your iPad or on your
Mhm.
phone. Do that before you leave the house while you have Wi-Fi. And you guys, if you're going to use call forwarding, this has happened to me the last 3 times I've traveled internationally. I've gotten there and been unable to turn on call forwarding.
Mhm.
So do that before you
More.
leave the country. Yes, do not board your international flight without doing that. And the other thing I'll say, I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing the conversation, Jordan.
You're good. They want to hear from you, not from me.
The other thing I'll say is that I have a master packing list. Jordan knows this. I live in my notes section on my phone, and
Mhm.
I'll share a note with somebody. I mean, I have notes everywhere, and it's just called packing list. And it has all these reminders. Like it says, hey, call forwarding before you leave the country. Download the movies that you want to watch or TV shows. Get your book. I always get a book that I'm really excited about. And I like to read the first chapter before I get to the airport, because what if it's terrible? I need to know before I get on the plane. I want to be like, I can't wait to read the second chapter, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, a few things that are on my master packing list I think are really smart. I wish I had it with me. I have the cutest little speakers. Jordan, can we put it? I'm going to send it to you so we can put it in the comments. But
Yeah.
it's like this little, you've seen them that I have. I've had so many. I keep giving them to people because they freak out over them. But they're like $20 on Amazon. And it's like a little animal speaker, and it has this cord and you can hang it. It's this big. It's like a golf ball, and it has such great sound. And so that makes any trip so much fun, like in your hotel room, when you're in the bathroom getting ready. It just, oh my God, I love it. So the speaker is a big one for me. And then to me, I think the thing I always forget is like comfortable clothes for when you get back to the hotel. I don't want to wear the running shoes I've been wearing all day, or
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So just planning ahead for making sure that you're comfortable and happy so you can recharge for the next day. That's one of the hardest things about traveling is sleep, right?
Yeah.
And relaxation. Do you
Yeah.
do anything to prepare for that? Do you have a packing list?
Yeah, I have a packing list and it's broken down by, is this a business trip? Is it a beach trip? We're going to Crested Butte in January for skiing. If we have if it's a skiing vacation, like I have a list of all these things so that I like to, as you mentioned, and I've learned my lesson, like I like to start packing kind of days before because I don't like to feel rushed and I don't like to forget things. A couple of things that I'll add to what she said. HBO Max, it's like HBO's digital streaming app, is the fastest one that I have found. Sometimes if you like forgot to download what you want to watch on your iPad before you get on the airplane and you're at the airport and the Wi-Fi kind of sucks. HBO Max, I don't know what it is about that app, but it downloads super, super fast. And so I just have Game of Thrones as my go-to that I'm always going to watch on the airplane. It's the only time I watch it is when I'm traveling. And so if I forget, I can even just sit there at the gate and still download like
Sure.
4 or 5 episodes, and it happens super quick. I don't know what it is about that app, but the
Yeah.
rest of them don't do that. Another rule that I have is that I'm not allowed to read nonfiction on vacation. So I always take a book too, and yet I'm not allowed to read a personal development book. I don't get to come back and have read, one of Mary Cheatham and I's favorite books is the book Traction. I don't get to take books like
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
have to read something that is
Good.
fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's got to be good. And usually I'll take a book with me, and then 99% of the time, almost every time, I'll go to the bookstore. There's this really cool bookstore in the Kansas City airport, and I'll walk through there and buy another book while I'm there. And so that's part of the fun is getting to go in and pick another book out.
I love that. So
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think that makes all the difference. Let me ask you one more question. What about your travel bag?
What
This is
about my
so important. What do you put in your travel bag?
well, that's always going to be, you're talking about the bag that I carry on.
Yeah, I should say your personal item. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's always going to be my oh my gosh, I am such a Sherpa when it comes to this. That's always going to be my backpack, and I have my iPad, I have my Remarkable, I have my Kindle, and I have my laptop every
Do you
time.
seriously?
Oh, every time, every single time, because I use them for different circumstances, and so I never leave home without them. Again, Rochelle makes fun of me because my backpack always weighs like 1,000 pounds,
Yeah.
and I always have three sets of headphones. Like I have two pairs of AirPods, and I have the over-the-ear ones. So I'm kind of a snob when it comes to like the technology and the things that I take with me, because if I'm going to go out of town, like I want to have the things that I need and that make the trip enjoyable, especially like if we go to an Airbnb or whatever, or maybe we want to watch a movie as a family at the end of the day and everybody's kind of cooked and sometimes the cable doesn't work. So I'll have my iPad or I'll have my laptop and we can watch a movie, or it's at a hotel, right? We can watch a movie together there.
That's good.
What about you? What's your travel or carry on
I
situation look
try
like?
to travel as light as possible, and I try to put I put like my journal and my book and my pen all in a little pouch so I can throw that in my seat. Um, and then I'll just take my iPad and,
Mhm.
and just my AirPods and kind of go with that. But snacks, I mean, come on, Jordan, you didn't mention snacks. Do you pack snacks?
Not really. I mean, I don't
God,
know. But see, that's the thing is like the funny, I was at your house in February, and I was doing a My Free Life for our mutual friend James Cummings, right?
yeah.
And I was at your house, and like I walked out of her house with like two bags of snacks and all these different like little packets of like Element and Liquid IV. And so my snack game is not nearly as strong
My
as
snack game is so strong.
your snack game is very strong.
Exactly right. That's right. And I will tell you my number one thing that I travel with, which I don't think you have one of these. Do you have a sleep crown?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Well, don't get one because Christmas is coming up. But I have a sleep crown, which is it's like it's these pillows and they come in full size and travel size, and
Mm.
they have like a little crescent shape to them, and that you can put them over your eye and you can snuggle with them. I'm obsessed, and I want you to know. Last year for Christmas, I got Chip both sizes, and he was like, "I don't want these," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, that's fine, but you're going to keep them anyway just to see what happens." And when we went to Italy in April, he did not take a carry-on. All he took was those two sleep crowns in their carrying case tucked under his arm. That was what he took. That's how much he loved. They were the only thing. Like if our house burned down in a fire, he would only take this.
Yeah, and see, my concern would be the same as Chip's, and Chip and I are a lot alike. Chip and I get along great, and my concern would be like, I don't know that I could be seen in public wearing whatever that is. Like, what if they take my man card away? Like
They
this.
will not. They will not. It's been
Yeah,
tested.
but
It's
I'm
been
glad
tested.
Chip test drove that for me. That was really great of him to do that.
Mhm.
Well, I have to ask the question though, like if you could only take one or two snacks on your travels, like what are your go-tos?
It's definitely going to be a bar, some sort of a bar. I mean,
Mm.
I like chomps a lot. I think chomps really
Yep,
come in
I'm
handy.
figuring. Yep.
I've been known to throw some hard-boiled eggs into my bag, but if you do that, you have to take little tiny things of salt and pepper because you can't eat a hard-boiled egg without salt and pepper.
But you're
Um,
gonna eat that on the plane and like ruin the experience for everybody else?
no, 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 no. I'll eat it like in the. I don't. My snacks don't generally make it to the plane. I eat them before I even get on the plane.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're going like hardcore paleo on that, right? It's hard boiled eggs and chomps. I love that.
yeah, and bars. Yep.
And bars, and bars. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So one of the things about you that I've noticed over the years that we've known each other is that you travel really well, meaning you go to some really cool places. Like I was talking to Sally, Mary Cheatham's daughter. It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she shared with me that over the summer she spent a month in Alaska. There was another time that you had mentioned that Walter had gone to fly fishing camp. I remember when you and Chip went to Patagonia, like you guys have been to these really cool places and you send your kids and you go together as a family. And I'm just curious, like, how do you find out or where do you find out about all these cool experiences that you're always providing for yourself and your family?
Well, the answer is where I find out about everything in life, which is Instagrams. The Instagram tells me everything to do, and I just do it.
Yeah.
But I do think, I'm actually, this is a point worth mentioning. I'm a huge fan of a travel advisor. And I've
Mm,
used all different ones. There are so many that are good. It does not have to be super expensive. But I mean, how many times have you like waited and gone on this trip that you were dying to go on, and you get there and you realize that you picked the wrong hotel?
yeah.
I hate that. You know what I mean? And what I love is just to have a plan, and then you get there and talk to the hotel. Let's say you are staying at the great hotel, and then they give you a recommendation for dinner. And so just cancel the reservation that you had. Fine. But at least you have a backup. I mean,
Yeah.
I really liked, and I don't have time to do it. I'm not going to research it. I just want to know that somebody else has handled it for me. So I think that's a big thing. And then as far as the kids are concerned, if anybody has kids and wants some recommendations from me, I actually did the program that Sally did this summer. It's called NOLS, the National Outdoor Leadership School. I did mine I was 6 weeks in the Yukon territory, and when I was younger. And then I worked for another outdoor company called Moon Dance for kids. Jordan, I think you and I have talked about these because
Mhm.
the girls need to do these, and they're great programs for different ages and different stages. But yeah, I'm just always researching travel because I love it. I want to go everywhere.
That's right. What does Sally say about you and Instagram? You are the
Sally
what
says well, she says I'm the influenced,
you're the influenced. That's right. Yeah.
which is 100% accurate.
Yeah, there are influencers and then there is the influenced and
Which is
you're the
Mhm.
influenced.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
She sent me a meme, a little video the other day of this mom and daughter, and it's like this beautiful sunset, and they're at a lake and they're watching it, and they're like have their heads back and they're so happy. And the mom leans forward and pulls out this huge calendar and it's like, okay, it looks to me like that December 7th and 8th, you're available between 5:30 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. the next day. So what I'm thinking is that we can catch a flight, like this whole, just ruining the moment by always planning the next thing, which is guilty. Guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's funny. All right, Mary Cheatham. So we're getting to the end here. What final words of wisdom would you give to those who want to travel easy, soothe anxiety, and enjoy the journey? What departing words of wisdom would you give to them?
I think that my parting words of wisdom would be just that. I think looking forward to something is so joyful. I think looking forward to something is half of the fun. And
Hmm.
so I think if you're going to invest your time and your money and your energy in travel, then make sure that you stop and you do the work on the front end, right? To make sure that you bring the right things, to make sure that you're organized so that you can enjoy it from the moment you leave for the airport or the moment you wake up that morning. Think about who you need to touch base with while you're gone and what few things you could do that would make you feel secure and happy while you're traveling. And then I think thinking about your future self when you get back and really showing yourself some grace and managing everyone's expectations, most importantly your own, about what you're going to be able to achieve in those first few days of reentry. Reentry days are not regular days. That
That's
is the takeaway, right?
yep.
I used to come back and be like, well, it's just a regular Monday. What are you talking about? Why am I freaking out? Yeah.
You're right. Reentry days are not regular days. And I think you're right too. Like we've all, at least I've had the experience of, not prepping well for whether it's reentry or just even looking at the vacation altogether, the trip that we're taking and not planning well ahead of that. Whether that's things that we want to do while we're there or just being prepared, like clothes wise, dinners, whatever. And it just reminds me so much of something an old mentor of mine used to say. He said, you can prepare or you can repair. And it's a
Mm,
hell of a lot easier to prepare than it is to repair.
I love
And
that. Yeah, that's so good. I have a friend who says luck favors the prepared.
yep, I absolutely agree with that. And so, what we wanted everybody to hear, number one, is that the goal of this is for you to design, as she mentioned, a reentry plan. So for those of you that own businesses, that maybe your parents, you have partners, whatever, that when you come back, have a pre-decided plan so that you know how to re-enter the world of your world, whether that's business or family or whatever, so that you don't end up in regret, right? So it's re-entry plan to avoid regret.
That's
And I think that the things that you shared here today, if everybody followed your advice, we would do just that.
Well, let me be very clear that you're the one that made me do this. So it only took probably 4 years of me freaking out every time I went anywhere. And then finally, just like, you only have to tell me something 150 times and then I'll do it.
Yeah. I mean, 150 is about the right number. And I always think it's funny, just so that those of you who are here, all my coaching clients always say the same thing. I made her do it. I made them do it. God, whatever.
Well, I do think you told me 150 times. And then, the key with me is to say, it's fine. You're never going to do it. And then I'll
That's
be
right. Yeah.
oh, I'm going to do it.
We had a coaching call today about that. We were talking about counter will. Remember that? See, I activate her counter will by, you're never going to do this. And now she's got to prove me wrong, so she'll do it.
Exactly right.
That's
Exactly
right.
Yeah.
Well, Mary Cheatham, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your travel wisdom with everybody. I know we're all better for it. And for those of you in the audience, thank you for being here today. We'll be back here same day, same time next week. And I can't wait to share with you what we have in store. Between now and then, live freed. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.